Hey guys, this is Sam. Welcome back to a new chapter of this channel. Cameras I own, but probably never gonna use. Today we are talking about the Voigtländer Bessamatic. Oh man, I really hope I didn't butcher this two words. As usual, this is going to be a 4-part video. Part 1, the history, the different version, and the price. And part 2, I don't know if anybody would even care, a full-on how-to load it, to unload it. And the part 3, sample photos I shot with this camera. And the part 4, what I like and dislike about this camera. As always, the timestamps are here. You can skip ahead to wherever you like. The Bessamatic came out in 1959 from Voigtländer, a German brand that have been making cameras since 1840s. By this point, they were partly owned by Zeiss, and this camera was their answer to the 1953 Zeiss Icon contact flex and the 1957 Kodak Retina reflex, who'd both beaten them to the same idea by just a few years. Here is the fun fact about this camera. It is technically an SLR, but the shutter isn't built in the body, but it's actually built in the lens. That means it will sync flash at every single shutter speed up to 1/500th of a second. Most of Japanese SLR camera from this era topped out at 1/60th of a second or 1/125th of a second for flash. Voigtländer being late to the game might not be a bad thing because they got to watch what everybody else did wrong, so they can hopefully do it better. My Bessamatic, it's the original 1959 version, I think, with a 50mm 2.8 lens. A few years later, Voigtländer released a Bessamatic Deluxe, which added a little window that let you read the shutter speed and the aperture right inside the viewfinder. And honestly, I kind of wish I had that version, because being able to check your setting without pulling the camera away from your eyes is a real convenience. And after that, Voigtländer came out a stripped down meterless version. I don't know why they go backwards. And then later a CS model with a more modern light meter. There was also a fancier sibling called Ultramatic, which introduced a through-the-lens TTL metering, which is even more advanced. By late 60s, the whole leaf shutter design just couldn't keep up with the camera coming out of Japan, like the Pentax Spotmatic, the Nikkor and the Minolta SRT101. Cheaper to build, fewer things to break, and by then, their flash sync ceiling matters less and less since electronic flash and a faster film were making that leaf shutter advance less of a selling point. So in the end, Voigtländer stopped making them by end of the 60s. As price goes, this camera originally sold for $230 back in 1959. That's like a couple of thousands of dollars today. It's really expensive. On the used market now, you're looking at somewhere between $80 to $200 depending on the condition, which is a lot more affordable and very much collectible. This camera at first looks a little bit intimidating, and it looks a lot different from my other 35mm camera. So let's go step by step. First of all, you want to set your film speed. Press this little catch and then turn the dial until your ASA or DIN number lines up with the red mark. Do this before loading your film. To open the back, squeeze these 2 spring latches on the left side and then it will pop open. And now let's load up a film. First of all, you want to hook the leader onto the take-up spool on the right and then drop the casket into the left chamber. And then we can close the back, Press until you hear both latches click. And now it comes to the little complicated part. Before you even load the film, flip this reversing lever to R. This unlocks the take-up spool so you can turn it freely by hand. Spin it until the diamond mark show up for a 36 exposure roll. At this point, you are not on frame 1 yet. There's still a blank leader to wind through. So just press the shutter, keep winding on over and over until the counter actually reads 36 on the display. And then you are ready to go. So yeah, the frame counter doesn't counting up from 0, 1, 2, 3, it actually counting down from 36. That's the first camera I use that does this. It's kind of weird. And one more thing about this advance lever. Every time you advance, you have to swing it all the way every time. Stopping halfway just isn't gonna do anything. The shutter speed ring is on the lens. Turn it until your speed click onto a certain number. The shutter speed goes up to 1/500th of a second. And then there's also a bulb setting for long exposure. For how old this camera is, it actually has a light meter built into it. For exposure, look through the viewfinder and turn this knob until the little circle lines up over the meter needle. That's your exposure set. One important thing to remember, when you meter for a scene, you have to keep your camera leveled like this. Even for a vertical shot, you still need to meter it like this first, otherwise the meter will read wrong. If you want a different aperture or shutter speed without messing the exposure, the shutter speed ring and the aperture ring is actually linked. Just don't force it past the lens limit. This is where I find a little confusing and a little complicated. When I say confusing, focusing with this camera, it's the real confusing part. There is a small split circle in the center of the viewfinder. That's what you focus with. You turn the lens until the split screen match up, right? And that's nothing new. But here is the catch. Everything outside of this little center circle will always look sharp no matter what. This is just how the viewfinder works. So you can't trust your eye anywhere else except this little center patch. And for how many times I would just forget about it. Oh, there's something else. Every time you press the shutter, the viewfinder will turn black the moment you take the shot, and it won't come back up until you wind the film over. There's no instant return mirror in there. That's actually very interesting. For a second, I feel like I'm shooting with my Hasselblad camera. Alright, now if we look on the side of the lens, there is a small letter V, and the shutter fires on its own about 8 to 10 seconds after you press the release. That's your selfie mode. I don't think mine worked. It just stuck there, so I didn't try it. Another thing I didn't try is the flash, which is kind of a shame since the shutter built in the lens is thanks to any speed. That's genuinely rare for a camera this old. I only have this one lens, but if you have multiple lenses, swapping lens is also very easy. To remove it, press this catch near the bottom of the lens, twist it the other way, and then pull it off. And then put it back on, line up the dot and twist it, and you're ready to go. When you finish the roll, flip this reversing lever to R, pull this winding knob back, and crank it all the way until the counter marker reappears. And also you can just feel it when it's rolled up. And then you can open the back, take it out, and you are ready for developing and scanning. Okay, today I'm gonna give this camera a try. This is the Bessamatic. It's a very old camera. I had it for a really long time, but I don't even know if it works because I've never used it. So today I'm gonna load this camera with a roll of Lucky 200 and to just test and see if it's even work. Five, 6, 500. The color is really nice. And we were shooting at 250, 16ths of a second. 11, 250. This was 11, 250. Oh, that yellow truck looks nice. Oh, this looks so pretty. Pretty nice red. Now let's talk about what I like and dislike about this camera, even though I may never use it again. First of all, the viewfinder on this thing, it's really bright for such an old camera. And the controls, even though at the beginning it looks a lot different from my other 35mm camera, but for a Voigtländer camera, they are surprisingly easy to understand. Everything roughly at where you expect them to be, which I guess isn't something you don't normally say about this brand because Voigtländer is kind of known for doing things in their own weird way. Besides the leaf shutter and all that, this whole shutter thing has its unique and interesting design. It does sound a bit old when it fires, but I think it's really fun and really satisfying every time you press the shutter. You see the screen just turns black and then you wind it on and then the screen turns bright again. I guess that's why a lot of people love shooting with the Hasselblad. Now let's talk about what I don't like about this camera. First of all, it's the whole focusing system, since you can only trust that tiny little patch in the center of the screen, and also like my lens is kind of old, so it's difficult to turn it to line things up, and the rest of the screen is always so bright and so sharp, and I just feel like I can't trust my eyes sometimes. Most of you might already know I mostly shoot with SLR. My Pentax 6.7 has this big ground glass screen that visibly snaps in and out of focus across the whole thing. So it took some real relearn and adjustment for me. It's basically ask you to focus like you're using a rangefinder camera, but it's still an SLR, which is like weird. And then this camera, it's built very solid, so it's pretty heavy and it doesn't have hooks to put on a camera strap. I guess back in the day, you would usually have a whole leather case to hold the camera and the strap would just be part of the case. Maybe? And on top of all that, you also have this shutter speed ring and aperture ring linked together. I guess that should be a very convenient thing when I think about this idea, but when I'm actually using it, it's fine when you want to lock on an exposure combination, but if you want to override it, you have to fight the turning ring and you have to keep track of where the limits it's your lens so you don't have to force it and accidentally break it. It's just not as functional as I want it to be. You know what? It may not be the camera, it might be me. Look, this camera is clearly not built to be easy compared to the later and more modern cameras. It was built to be reliable and honestly kind of smart for its time. But on the other hand, I can also see why this line of camera getting taken over by those Japanese brands. Overall, shooting with this camera kind of eased me in from SLR to rangefinders thanks to the way the focusing system is designed. If you really think about it, this is actually a rangefinder that's living inside of a SLR's body. I probably won't shoot with this camera again, considering how many other functional camera I actually own. Not to say this is not functional, but this piece is going to sit on my shelf. It's going to represent the brand, this stubborn, unique design, Voigtländer being themselves even when it means doing the things the hard way. Well, this is our first Voigtländer video, but I promise you it won't be the last one. What is your favorite Voigtländer camera? Leave me a comment down below. And this is Sam. I will see you next time. Bye!